if you're not using this, there's a modern contractor out there that's coming for you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Modern Contractor Roundtable. Today we have Eric Triplett, the pond digger himself. He has a YouTube channel. He has a great business. He also has been doing some coaching of contractors, train with Triplett. And Eric has a lot of really interesting stuff to say. And I've been following his stuff on TikTok, and I really want to dig deep on this guy. Eric, welcome to the Modern Contractor, man.
Let's dig deep, man. You said you wanted to dig deep. Let's roll.
There's only one place I can go. So here I am. I'm like reviewing a list of questions, right? Because I want this to be kind of structured. But then I realized something, that there's really one thing I want to get out of you, like one main thing. And it's probably like a big part of the content that you produce. And this is like, let's just dive right deep into sales, right? You are a master at qualifying customers. I preach about it, but I haven't seen anybody out there frame it the way you did. And I want, for all the modern contractors out there to get like an idea of what is your process like when it comes to qualifying. Let's start there and kind of take it that way.
Great. So let me just give you a little bit of background. I won't go deep, but like I've been building ponds professionally for over 20 years. So I'm real passionate about it. And luckily, it's a very unique niche, it's like very like hobbyist kind of oriented. Also, it's kind of like, it's I would say higher end, like everyone can afford a pond. It's like that upper level stuff. So I fell into a really cool niche because of my passion. But so for years, I thought I was a pretty decent salesman. And I could say, oh, it's because I was young, I was passionate, I was handsome, I was charismatic or whatever, right? But when I really started to understand sales, I figured I just barely got by, like I got lucky all those years, right? Fell into all that stuff. So when I started to understand sales psychology and how to be quiet when I was supposed to be and actually listen to people and understand personality profiles and stuff, I felt like, wow, I left a lot of money on the table in the past 20, 25 years, right? I really screwed up. And so it's been kind of my mission ever since to like really dive into it and first like create a better experience for my prospects and clients, because like when I understand them better and I listen to them and I deliver what they want, like, it makes everything go better, right? Word of mouth gets better, their experience is better, and so I find a lot of I find a lot of fulfillment when I help contractors understand that who are me 20 years ago. Like I'm trying to help myself 20 years ago. I'm doing it now.
Which is really cool because I get it, man. Like, as you progress throughout the years, you start to realize, you start to come outside of your box, right? Like, learning this industry and learning sales and learning, like, there's a lot of aspects of this industry. Like, we'll put to rest the fact that, all the contractors out there, they have this skill. Okay, we'll put that to rest, right? So talking about skills in communicating and talking with customers, it's interesting how much in the younger years you think you know a lot about a little, right? And then once you start to break out of that, you look back and you're like, oh, I was such an idiot, man. Like things I said and the confidence, lack of, like, why would I do that? And you just feel stupid about it, right? So as you progress, you look back and you see other contractors starting to make the same mistakes and the same, like, needless concerns and things like that. And you're like, I just want to reach out of the screen and just help you. So I love the fact that you do that.
Sometimes you just want to strangle them. then you want to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we make mistakes along the way too, right? We're learning about it. But there's something about charisma that I feel like a lot of people think that it's just like a gift, right? Like it's just, I don't have that. I'm not that kind of guy. But Modern Contractors is around the principle of like, this is something that can be taught. You can learn about the confidence and you can learn about the psychology of sales and really put it into practice. It is practice, right? So hearing you speak about it, it's refreshing as hell. There's a lot of stuff out there about lead generation and sales closing techniques and all this stuff, but none of it's fucking real. It just seems so like this isn't a strategy so much as a dance. And when I hear you speak, I'm like, okay, this guy gets it, right? This guy gets it.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think one of the reasons why you get me and understand me is because there are a lot of sales trainers and influencers in TikTok, all the, YouTube, Instagram, all this stuff. There's a lot of great sales content out there, but a lot of it is like, and I'm not shitting on Alex Hormozy because he's a legend. I love Alex, right? But he, like when you listen to him, he's teaching gym owners how to like bring people in
Right.
and stuff, right? Like so, and a lot of his content I learn from, but you have to like really spin the context to the contractor world, right? So, and again, I just so if you sell a gym membership, okay, they signed up, boom, you never talk to that person again, maybe, right? Or maybe
Right.
you get a nutrition plan or an exercise plan or whatever. But like as a contractor, it's a little bit different because it's intimate. You're in the person's home, you sell them. I'm not going to persuade someone. I'm not going to like, try and close them. I'm not going in for a hard close
Right.
while I'm in their kitchen drinking some lemonade to build them a beautiful landscape in their backyard. Like I'm not going to try and persuade them. I go out about it a lot differently. So I think the contractor approach in context to a lot of the sales trainers that we see in social media, the application's just a little different. The nuance is different. And so, through my experience, I'm trying to like share like how that translates to the modern contractor.
And it is different. Let's just kind of go down this again, digging deep, right? You get a phone call from a customer, right? Let's walk through this. There's obviously a couple of questions you're going to ask immediately to qualify whether you're a right fit for them, whether they're a right fit for you. Are there any go-to questions that you ask that would kind of start that dialogue and start exposing those red flags?
Absolutely. I mean, I have 8 vital questions is kind of like where I live off of. I go to the 8 vital questions, we run through them with the customer, and sometimes it takes 20 minutes. And it's a whole discovery call, right? 20 minutes, sometimes it's depending on the personality, sometimes it's half an hour or longer, right? I mean, am I selling a $7,000 water feature or 70,000 or
Right.
$150,000 water feature? That might translate to a different type of discovery call. But I mean, basically, it's like I want to know. First of all, I go like, hey, before we get started, is it be cool if you just share with me how you found out about our business, right? And
Right.
so this is the context behind that one simple question is like, you know, the modern contractor should know where their leads are coming from, period. So they can track what their marketing efforts are doing for them, right? And that's a selfish thing, right? So like, hey, where's my money working, right? But also there's amazing clues in, hey, Johnny, before we get started, and that's almost like a setup. We're going to go on this journey together. Before we get started, hey, would you mind sharing with me how you found out about our company? And then they're like, oh, well, my neighbor Sally just had a kitchen done or a pond done. And now I have context to like, oh, the neighbor, I know where they live. I know how much Sally spent on her pond or her kitchen or whatever. So now there's this massive, massive intake of information, one simple question, and I know where my money is working on marketing. That's how it all starts.
So if I understand you correctly, right? We're not, you get that initial call from the customer. We're not
Mhm.
engaging immediately into trying to sell yourself, trying to sell your company, trying to sell your services. Right away, it sounds to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're just engaging in just a regular conversation with the person to try and extract
Yes.
information to enter into a dialogue and enter
Mhm.
into like a trusting relationship before you like actually start proceeding into anything. Am,
Absolutely. Like one of the highest compliments I get from a prospect or a client, that I'm dealing with is like, hey, I just felt like I was talking to a friend.
yes,
Like that's the thing. First of all, the modern contractor, you don't have to sell yourself. Okay.
I like that.
If social media is out there, they picked up the phone, they checked your Google reviews, they looked at you on Facebook, they checked you on Instagram to make sure you're not taking a rip off a bong or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're checking you out. They're doing the social proofing, like they know that you've been in business for 10 years or 20 years or whatever, because your marketing should reflect those things. So when Johnny calls me and says, hey, I'm interested in having a pond done, I'd like to talk to you about it. I don't have to tell them I've been doing it for 20 years. I've won this award. I'm really good at it. Like
Right.
I do really naturalistic shit. I don't have to do that because most people are doing their social proofing. Now I just got to go like, hey, Johnny, hey, thanks for sharing how you found out about my company. It really helps and where I spend my money for marketing. um, tell me about your project and how you're hoping I can help, and then let them talk.
I like that. Stay
Yeah.
quiet, let them talk, and that's a big part of listening, right? And I've heard you speak about this before. You know, I've seen a couple of your videos, and you speak a lot about listening to customers and actually, getting the information out of them, hearing what their needs are, and selling on the right value, right? Maybe you could speak a little bit more about that, about generating and creating value. What does that mean?
Most people in human nature, they want to be heard. They want to be understood. And contractors usually just run their mouth the whole freaking time. This award I won, and I got a big team, and blah blah blah. And like the person doesn't care about all your accolades. They already know, right? They want you to understand like what they need. Like, hey, I want this pond done. It's important to me. I want my kitchen remodeled. It's an embarrassment, like the way it's done. Hey, I want the tiles. I don't want these tiny tiles anymore because it's such a hard thing to clean all the grout out. I want bigger pieces. I love tile. I love the look of it, but I want less grout lines. I don't want to have to clean. Cleaning is a really pain in the butt for me. Like, they want to hear that stuff. And if you're saying like, "Oh, I'm the best designer. I'm going to tell you how to run your kitchen and the
Yeah.
best tile because I'm really good at what I do," they don't want to hear that. They just and it's good that you're good at that stuff, and it's going to help at some point in the conversation with them, but not in the beginning.
Not in the beginning. Yeah,
You,
100%.
yeah, active listening is so critical.
And active listening is something like I encourage everybody to look that up, and we could talk about that all day. Active listening is something that's critical in the sales process. Not only the sales process, like engaging with anybody, your wife, your children, your husband, it goes on and on. Actually, like you said, you nailed it, right? People just want to be heard. They want to be
Yeah.
understood. So if you give
Hmm.
them that opportunity, I suppose information is going to fall out about what they value. There's scenarios where people are changing the paint in their house because they had a recent loved one die, right?
Hmm.
And it's an opportunity to kind of like empathize with that situation and get real, right? So if I'm hearing you correctly, outside of engaging in general conversation right off the beginning, staying quiet and keeping your damn mouth shut. You don't have to sell yourself, right?
The reason I think this is so important, and it's hit me so hard this late in my career, is because I'm an I personality. I would like to talk about personality profiling and typing. I think it's an important factor for a modern
Yes.
contractor to know. But I'm an I personality. I'm a high D, high I, like right up there, neck and neck.
Can you help
So
me understand what that scale is? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just to anybody that doesn't know.
okay, well, let's start there. So the DISC profile, DISC.
Right.
So you have all four personality types, but something is going to be more than the other. So I'll give you
Dominant.
an
Got it.
example. So I is influential, going, talkative, gift of the gab. C personality is like a numbers person. They have a clipboard. They want to talk about all the, how long the extension cord is, and all the stuff that
Interesting.
normal. And so then you have the S personality, which is more like they're slow to make a decision. They're very thoughtful. They need more time. They need information. So like those are the different personality types. So for me, I'm high D. I want to get to the point. I want to get action. I want to move.
Right.
And then I'm high I, which is friendly, gregarious, and I want to talk. And so in the past, I would do all the talking as that contractor, right? And I know I left a lot of money on the table, probably annoyed some people over the years, but
Part of learning.
yeah, luckily it's you know my passion and my word has delivered me to a point where I made enough and grew my business to where I'm at today, and I understand it all now.
So the disc
Yeah,
is something that, just to kind of reiterate that, it's a personality profiling, I guess, system or mechanism to help you kind of build out these art, like what archetype people fall into, including
yeah,
yourself. So
yeah,
you're just trying to understand which way to go with the type of personality that you're engaging with the customer. Is
yeah. I
that
mean,
correct?
yeah, the modern contractor needs to know who they are, like what makes them move, right? So if they're talking a lot, like an I personality, for example, they talk a lot. They're like always going, right? A D personality might be more quiet when it gets to the point, doesn't have time to fuck around. Like, let's get to it.
Right.
So an I personality needs to realize. So here's the interesting thing. For me, I'm high D, which like imagine 40% of my personality is a D, and then 40% of my personality is an I, or a 39. It's really high. And then my S and C personality types are really low. So like they're super low. So for me, and some people might have a high C, which means they're an accountant, they're a bean counter, they do inventory for a major company, they do a lot of stuff like that. And but they're not, their like D personality is assertive. So I can be assertive and I can talk a lot, right? And I realize that who I am. So if I'm talking to someone who is having a hard time making a decision, I know they're an S personality type. I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to be as assertive. I'm going to try and be more helpful. I have empathy and understand who they are. So if you don't understand, if you don't know what that means, then you don't like. It's hard to help that person, right?
So, in a general sense, I suppose what you're suggesting that you're doing is kind of just understanding where people's like energetic state is, where their personality
Yeah,
state is, and sort of
sure.
matching or mirroring that in a
Yeah,
way.
you could call it mirroring, and there's a level where you're mirroring a cadence. Someone talks really fast, then I can talk fast, and I have a tendency to talk fast. But if I'm talking to someone, they're very slow. Boom, I can slow.
Right.
The funny thing is, and I'll let you go after this, but like if I'm talking to someone and they have a very detailed personality type and they have a very slow cadence, for me, understanding who I am and who they are, I can drop my tempo, I can slow down. In the past, I didn't know any better, so I couldn't do that.
Right.
But what's really funny is the contractor who is that detailed personality with a slower cadence, I believe, and I could be wrong here, but they have a harder time matching a faster paced tempo. I feel like it's a magic piece for me. I can drop the tempo fast.
Right.
Where the contractor that's got that slow cadence, high detail level, they have a hard time coming up to speed with.
It's hard to come up to speed, and
Yeah.
I suppose like I mean this isn't really about being something that you're not. What I'm hearing from you is understand what you are, right,
Mhm.
and use that to your benefit.
Yeah, I'm trying to create a great experience for my
That's
clients,
what this is
right?
about. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if they need me to slow the fuck down for a second, I can.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, cool. So I did a discovery call over the phone. I charge for my time to go out to the project. I
Good.
first I make sure we're a right fit, right? And so, I get paid to go be a consultant at their place. I sit down and the person pulls out a clipboard. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is definitely high C personality. They're going to have a lot of questions. And so I can lean into that and I can empathize immediately. I know the personality type. And I might just be like, hey, I'm going to go into some details with you. They want details. They want details. So I won't say that to a D personality type unless they ask for it,
True.
right?
Right.
So I'll be like, hey, it seems like details are important to you. And they'll be like, yeah, I need to know. I don't want the extension cord length. I need to know. Like, well, let's go through your checklist. Let's knock some of these checklists off your clipboard. I think that's important. And then they go, oh, great, thanks. Because that C personality type will be like, hey, I know this is a little bit annoying because their whole family is like, oh my God, another clipboard, a checklist. Their family members give that shit to them, right? So a lot of times they'll be apologetic, like, oh, hey, I'm sorry, but I just got to get these things checked off my list. I'll be like, hey, no problem. I got all the time in the world, and I just slow down. In the past, oh my God, it was the worst. I hated it. But now I know they didn't do it to be mean. That's their person. That's in their DNA.
Right. Which is cool. If you're getting that type of communication back and forth, I guess you've kind of like broken through that, what I call that customer contractor hierarchy, breaking out of that social structure in communicating with somebody. So, all right. So at this point, we're asking questions, we're listening, right? And then the customer asks you, "I'd like you to come down to the job and take a look at it." Where's your head at
Okay.
with that?
So I, immediately it depends on their personality type. If I figured it out yet,
Right.
that's kind of an important factor. I'd be like, hey, Johnny, I'd love to come out to your place. It's one of my favorite things to do is like get on site, put boots on the ground and actually do some measurements and stuff. I love that aspect of it. But if it's cool with you, I'd like to just ask you a few more questions about the project, just so I have a better understanding when I get to your place. We can really make the most of it. Is that cool?
Oh shit, man, you have me convinced.
Yeah. So they're like, yeah, okay. And like, what else do you need to know? And I'd be like, cool. Well, let's say I get out to your place and like share some numbers with you, and they're perfect, exactly where you need them to be. Like, how soon are you hoping to get this project completed? You see how I'm already talking slower and
Yes.
I'm being more precise, you know? Like we're bros, we're just bullshitting talking, right? But like when with a client, like you want to be more, a little more precise, and we're going to talk like that. So if they say, "Hey, I need it done by, before Christmas because I have something going on," I'd be like, "Ooh, Johnny, you're going to be really upset with me when I tell you what my construction calendar looks like." Right? I
I
kind of,
love the way you frame that because you're setting the
yeah.
disappointment,
So I
right?
forewarn them a little bit.
Exactly.
So we might figure out we're not the right fit for each other. I don't even have to tell them, Donnie, I'll come to your place, but you're gonna have to pay me for my time. It costs a lot of money, my fuel, I got my tires on my truck, I'm busy, I got a lot of shit going on. You're gonna have to pay me if you want me out of your place. I don't have to go down that road. I kind of talk about timeline. And if we're the right fit, then I take them further down my sales process. If they're
Right.
like, oh no, I really have to get it done by that time, I'd be like, oh, I hope this is not a deal breaker. It sounds to me like it's a deal breaker, but like the first week I could start is probably January 7. And then they can go, oh, thanks for your time. I'm going to have to, maybe I'll do it myself. Maybe I'll find someone else. And then we're done.
Which is a really cool approach, Eric. You're not being rude about it. You're not, you know, like you're just framing it in a way where they understand it like they're like it's their idea, right?
Hmm.
You're giving them the suggestively my schedule. You're planting these seeds. It seems ahead of time because you know where they're getting. So you're kind of like being polite about how busy you are, and you're putting value in your time, right? You're showing that you do value your time.
Sure. Well, I mean, let's be real. You asked me, like, how do I pre-qualify, right? I want to know, do I like the person, right? Have a conversation. Do I like them? Are they pushy? Whatever. Uh, um, does the timeline work for us when they want it done, when I can complete it? Can they afford us? Do they have the money set aside to do the project? These things I need to find out. Does their wife even want the project? Does their dad or mother or whoever else the influencers are in their life? Like I've had men that absolutely wanted this pond, and like they're like, come on out, Mike, this is going to be amazing. We come out, we have this amazing conversation. The wife comes home and she's like, who's this? She's like, oh, it's the pond guy. She's like, we're not getting a pond. Like, I'm gonna get the tile done and the fishing before we get a pond, and my car's got to get fixed.
Oh
There's
shit.
no way we're getting a pond. And like, I'm like, wow, this is really went sideways. And I'm out the door, right? So like, I want to find out if there's any potential objections that cannot be overcome before I waste time going out to their place either for free or for money. I don't want 150 or $250 to walk the property to have the wife kick me out of the property. I'd rather go do something else.
Yeah, it's like I love the way you're framing because these are all like preliminary, like you know, strategies, engaging in conversation, listening, gathering the information. So it seems like we're kind of like mining the information to enter into the sales
Hmm.
process. We've decided whether we're qualifying, whether the customer is a good fit for us, we're a good fit for the customer, right? We've established value for our time, and we're showing that. We're getting at and hinting at ideas like introducing in the early stages about timeline, about scheduling, a little bit about pricing without getting too deep into it, right? It seems to be like very surface stuff. You've established that what type of person you're dealing with, right? And you use the
Hmm.
disc method, but in a lot of cases, people just naturally know this anyways. I think it's just important to pay attention, right? So now we're engaging into the sales process. You've gone as far as now going to take a look at the job and start taking measurements and that sort of thing. And now you're about to price the job, right? There are a lot of contractors out there that submit prices that they're not 100% confident in. Maybe this is too much for the customer. Oh shit, I can't do this. I'm going to take a little bit off. And I know I've done it before too,
Oh, it's
right?
the worst. It's the
Right?
worst.
Like that, oh, they're never gonna go for this, gotta, and you're just sitting there and you're justifying it in your head, and you're just sitting there and you're trying to
Yeah.
justify your price before you even put it out there, right?
Yeah.
So
Self-negotiation is the
that's what it
worst.
is, isn't it? Yeah, I like
Worst.
that self
Negotiating with
negotiation
yourself. What the fuck?
because you're gonna need to justify it. Some people, I've done it before where I just hit that send button. I'm like, fuck, they're not gonna go for that. What am I
Yeah.
gonna do now, right? I can't call them and say, retract my price or give a discount. I know they're not going to go for it. What kind of advice can you give to, especially younger entrepreneurs, even people that have been around for a long time? We all still do it, right? To kind of avoid that and justify and have an understanding of what your value is and justify your pricing. Does that happen before when you're doing the process of engaging with the customer? Like, where does that kind of begin? What are your thoughts around it?
Begins over the phone. So I'm gonna really dive into this. We're gonna go deep, but I want to
Nice.
backpedal a little. Okay. So like when I get on the phone with a prospect, I'm gonna, like, hey Johnny, what's up? Hey, I need to, before I come out to your place, I want to find out if our timeline works, if I like you, and if you can afford me. You can't say that to a customer, right?
Yeah.
You can't say that, but there's a strategy and there's tactics that you can go in and you can have that conversation and you can figure out those three important details. Do I like you? Does it fit the timeline? And can you even afford me? And like the other one, I guess, is your wife going to let you spend the money, right?
Yes.
So we need to find that out, but we need to go about it tactfully. So when I'm on the phone pre-qualifying, before I tell them how much it costs for me to put boots on the ground at their place, I'm going to share money with him. Now, one of the great, everyone knows him, one of the great guys on TikTok and Instagram that shares sales advice, but for like lots of industries,
Okay.
not specifically construction, but he talks about in negotiating, the first person to deliver the price oftentimes has the upper hand at the situation. And I don't mean that like, oh, I got the upper hand on you, but like if I say, hey Johnny, what's your budget? And you're like, hey, I want this done for 10 grand. Now I'm thinking like, fuck, how do I get this job done for 10 grand? What do I have to trim? Like they can't afford anymore? What do I gotta
Right.
do? Right. But if I say, hey Johnny, I have a really good idea of what you'd like to get done here from the photographs that you sent me and like what we've talked about. Is it cool if I just recap my notes real quick? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything important to you.
I love
Okay.
that.
And so they say, yeah, like, let's give me a recap. And then I'll be like, oh, so you've been dealing with this kitchen the way it is. That's kind of embarrassing. And I'm just going to ad lib what maybe you talked to me about. And I'm going to like rephrase and paraphrase like what you've explained to me. So you've been dealing with this kitchen that's an embarrassment to you and your wife when your family comes over for like 5 years now. And so the goal is to like completely take down all this tile, get rid of it, pick out a completely different color that's going to brighten the space, give you a more modern look for your kitchen. And we're going to use tiles that have less grout lines, bigger tiles, and we're going to get rid of all the small stuff. That way, your wife is not complaining at you once a month when she's in there scrubbing the tiles. So we're going to do this in a fashion, but you go through the whole scenario with them, right? And they're like, "Hey, did I
Right.
did I miss anything, Johnny?" And you're like, "Wow, this guy listened to me.
Right. Yes.
This guy actually knows what I want." The other two contractors that I talked to just told me about their rewards, how long they've been in business, how many team members they have.
How
Like,
good their quality is.
yeah,
Yeah.
just shut the up, right? So you've explained all that stuff, and I mean, the goal is to wow them a little bit, to get them to be like, wow, this guy really gets me. And
Right.
then did I miss anything that's important to you on that recap, Johnny? You're like, no, man, that's perfect. That's really beautiful. Cool. Well, you know what, Johnny, are you actually comfortable talking about money over the phone? They want to know the price. They want to know if they can afford you. They have anxiety over the whole fucking phone call. They're like, I hope I can afford this guy. I hope all the money that I've been saving, like a lot of times they're thinking this, right?
Yeah, you've pointed out the elephant in the room, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
soft landing, so you're providing
Yeah.
that. Great. That's incredible.
So now we want to just share a number with them. So like I would say, hey, I'm going to share some numbers with you, like, and then I would share some numbers. So like that size kitchen, there's a lot of variables, Johnny. So I'm going to give you some numbers that are spread out, but it's kind of a real good vision of what my clients have spent who've kind of gone crazy and like got tile from in Italy and stuff, like really fancy stuff. But I'll share some numbers with my clients that like really made some smart decisions, but we came up with a really, really signature product and made them happy. So I'm going to give you a number that's kind of spread out, and I just don't want you to freak out. Are you going to be okay with that? Ask permission. Don't just go, "Hey, Johnny, this is a $70,000 topic. This is going to cost you 70 G's."
Yeah,
Like ease them into it.
you did something important there, and I don't want to overlook it. Like, you mentioned another customer. You mentioned a story, right? And I don't want to glaze over that because I think that's actually particularly powerful, right? What you
It's really
did
powerful.
there is, even to me, like I felt it, is that you making me feel comfortable with the scenario as if I'm not the only one going through it. This is
Yeah.
another story that, oh good, someone else's, right? This is,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not right just me, even though we know it's not just you, but it's actually kind of a nice pleasantry saying I have another
Hmm.
customer that experienced the same thing as you're going through, and this is what
Yeah.
we did for them and they were very happy. What a powerful approach.
Plus, it's like you're not the prospect you're talking to doesn't feel like you're just pulling a number out of your ass.
Right, coming
Hey,
from a
this is
place.
like I'm actually sharing with you, like, right? And now I'm going to give you like my crazy high-end client, and I'm going to give you like my really conservative client that wants something really special, right? And then I kind of brace you and like, so I'm going to share these numbers with you. Just don't hang up the phone on me. And that's usually what happens. They
Yeah,
laugh and they kind of that breaks the ice and like I'm going to get the numbers, right?
it makes the
And then
numbers fun. I get it. It's a very
yeah,
uncomfortable thing, and if you can kind of like take the money, like kind of make fun of money a little bit,
yeah,
right? Like, make it
yeah.
kind of a little bit of a fun process. I like how the approach is. It's really good. So now we're into the sales process, and what you're doing here is eliminating that. Would you call it? Self negotiation,
Yeah,
right?
that's out the door. Yeah,
So now it's out the door. You just completely took it out because now you have an understanding of the range. You know the customer fits. You gave yourself an opportunity to hear some red flags in that process. If a customer is absolutely turned off at the entire conversation, get the fuck out the front. Like, go, get out of there
yeah, yeah,
right away. Like, that's not a customer you want to deal with. So you're gone if you're paying
yeah,
attention. But it's a part.
sure.
It's a part of listening. So you submit that price, and you're confident in the
But
price. Please
but
go ahead.
I don't give them a price. I give them a bracket,
A range,
a
right?
range. I don't like say ballpark. Hey, let me just give you a ballpark number. Now, it's not a bad thing. That's an okay way to go about it. But for me, I don't like this to say ballpark. I might say a range or just my clients that spend a lot,
Right.
right? So I'd be like, hey, I've had clients spend as much as like $70,000 in a kitchen like this. But I've also had clients that, like I said, we make some smart decisions and we've done beautiful work in the kitchen like this for like 45 grand. Which one of those conversations you think you'd like to have, Johnny?
So it sounds to me like you're giving them, like tiers of pricing as opposed, and
Yeah,
just letting them walk into where they fit, so you have an understanding of where to go with the dialogue, where to go with
yeah,
what you're pitching, right?
yeah. Because I've done like 11 by 16 pond is like a really popular size. That's like a staple. I've done hundreds and hundreds of 11 by 16 ponds. And so unless you're a contractor that started today and you're bidding on a kitchen tomorrow, you don't have any background work, right? So like a modern contractor should be like doing work at the end of the job costing, see if they did okay. Did I make money? Should I raise my price? Did I do okay? They know the best job ever, right? So if you've been at it for any length of time, if you've done two kitchens, you can go, I've done a kitchen for 50,000 and I've done a kitchen for 20,000. Which kind of kitchen do you want? And anywhere in between, we can land you there. Where do you want to land?
Right.
You know, so like I've got hundreds of 11 by 16s. So when I'm talking to someone about 11 by 16, and I've given social proof as an expert, as a professional, these kind of things, when I'm talking to them, I just be like, hey, Johnny, would it be helpful if I just share with you what my clients have invested in a similar size project with you? I'm just trying to be helpful to you. Like, right? But really, I want to know if you can afford me.
Yeah. I love how
And
you're
it's
being
not,
suggestive about it.
and it's not rude, right?
No.
I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste my time. You're going to get off work early so we can meet at a certain time and like stay at work and make money so you can afford whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah, I think people would appreciate that because you're pointing out the reality of the situation anyways. You're not beating around the bush. You're not doing anything. And it looked at as sneaky. You're not being sneaky about it. You're
I'm not being
saying
sneaky.
it.
I'm not. I'm just
Exactly, right?
being helpful.
And that's where trust is built. And that's where your price holds,
Yeah.
right? So, outside of that, now I'm kind of walking through the timeline here so we can get down to the close because this is where the meat and potato is. So I want everybody to stick around for that part, right?
Mhm.
So now you're in your office, you've submitted the price, right? It's out the door, right? Here we are. The customer calls you and questions your pricing. Now you've done everything you could at this stage to make it not a surprise for them, but they thought about it and they're like, it's a lot. Is there anything you can do to come down? I've got pricing from other people and they're much lower. You're the higher price, but I like you. I trust you, right? Obviously, because I'm calling you to ask you to adjust your pricing. How do you feel about that, Eric?
So there's a lot of questions wrapped up in there. I'm not sure which one to answer first
Pick one and go.
because, yeah. So for me, um, I would just remove myself from the bidding process. Be like, hey, I realize it's a lot of money for you. Like, I don't want to tell people like, hey, what I do is a lot of money.
I get it.
Like, I'm not going to justify that and be like, hey, Johnny, I realize that I'm not the only guy in town out there. In fact, if it's helpful, you could actually look at those other bids with you and help you choose the best contractor for you if we don't make sense for you. So I'm pulling myself out of
Dude,
the game.
that's
It's like it's called the takeaway. So like I'm taking myself out of the job. They're like, no, 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 wait a minute. I want you to like do the stuff, but like let's right. I just hope that I can get a better deal.
so you've
Right?
taken the approach as an advisor, essentially. You're like, okay, let me help you.
Yeah.
Let me help you with this then.
Consultant.
Consultant. And I love that because you're setting yourself
So
up as an
sometimes I'll be like
authority.
expert.
Exactly.
So I'll be like, Johnny, can I go off the record with you? Is that cool?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, that's what I would say to the client.
I thought you
Hey,
were
I got
about to
these other
give me
two
some
bids.
really juicy stuff there when you said that. I was like, no, this is
Well,
going to be
I'm
fun, dude.
gonna.
Okay, go
I'm
on.
gonna give you, hey, I got these two other estimates. You're the most expensive guy there. I really like these guys, but I really want your work and da 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 da. I'd be like, hey, Johnny, can I go off the record with you, bro? And they go, what's up, Eric? I'd be like, I realize you want us to work with you and you're looking at these other two bids, but I'm just out of curiosity, what's holding you back from just choosing one of these other guys? If their price is right and you seem like a right fit, how come you just haven't signed a contract with one of those guys? And then they're like, oh well, the timeline, or I feel like you understood me more. Like they're going to tell
They're
you
telling
other
you.
reasons besides the money, because I want to take the money out of the equation, right? I want to take the money out of the equation. It's like, okay, well, if they didn't understand you, but they're cheaper, what's that project look like when it's done? Is it going to be what you want it to be? I just try and go into that conversation with them and I just be like, hey, if I could do this cheaper, if I could build your pond for free, Johnny, I would do it because I just love doing what I do. But the reality is, I have a big team and they all have kids, and like, this is what it takes to work with our company.
So here we are. Like that's incredible because you've removed yourself from the communicate from the situation. Now you're helping the customer, and this goes all the way back around to where you started in the suggestion that we're trying to create a good experience for the customer. And through this entire process, it seems like you've become a friend, you become trustworthy, you've disclosed information of pricing, you've asked the right questions, you've proven that you're listening, you're building trust, you're building a relationship. And now once you get to this part, the close, it's all the stuff that you've done up to this part that makes that so much more successful in closing this customer.
I mean, if they called three people and they called one modern contractor and two douchebags,
Right.
you feel what I'm doing here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if they go through that whole ritual, the sales process of three different contractors, two douches and one modern contractor, if you are active listening and give affirmations of what they're going to do, and you share prices, and you don't go, hey Johnny, well, what's your budget for this job? How much do you want to spend? But they're not going to tell you.
No.
Like, they're afraid of getting ripped off by contractors. So like, if you just go, hey, this kitchen's it's a big job. Like, have you set apart a budget for this thing or what? Like, they're like, this guy's a douchebag, right? But if you go at it with a nice approach and, you have some empathy and you want to help them and you're trying to provide solutions to their problems, then part of that, remember how I said, oh, your kitchen was an embarrassment. Your wife doesn't want to bring the people over for Christmas.
Right.
Like there's a motive behind the reason I want to do the work. So if you find the motivation and you really embrace it, this guy gets me. The other contractors don't, right? So when it comes down to money, it happens all the time where I'm the highest contractor in the three bids. And my true avatar, my customers, they don't ask me to go lower. They just go, hey, Eric, I just want you to know I had three bids. You're the highest contractor by a lot, but like I really feel like you get me. I know that I'm gonna get the pond that I want and the experience. When can you get started? When can you come out? And they just tell me that. So when you train and you like think about all this stuff and you like dive into it, like the business, you should feel like an athlete, bro. You need to train. Like you can't just wake up and go, oh, I'm gonna build I'm gonna go put some tile in today.
I have a bit of a confession to make. This entire time I was, leading this conversation
Mm.
to the close because I know that a lot of contractors or modern contractors are interested in the closing techniques. Like, what are the skills? That's what this whole thing's about: lead generation and closing. And there's nothing sleazy or about what you're saying. And we've already gone down to the point of the close, and there's nothing necessary. There's
Exactly.
no close necessary.
You
You've
don't need some
led.
magical show.
There's nothing sleazy about anything that you've done. There's nothing manipulative. All that you've done is build trust in the client, become their friend, given them a good experience, and you set the pace to what the contract's going to look like. You set the pace to what everything, the build or whatever service you're providing is going to look like in your process, and there is no close. To a lot of contractors out there, it's risky, and I'm going to explain why. It appears that way. It's not risky. It appears that way because, fuck, Eric, I need the job, right? If I don't get this job, what
Yeah.
am I going to do? I've got people that I need to keep busy. I've got, so many people depending on me. Like, gotta close this deal, right? But the way you're framing all this is that there's no risk to it at all. You've built a friendship. And even if you don't close this deal, there's no reason. Like, you've managed to potentially get a referral from a job that you didn't want anyways.
Here's an important factor that I want contractors to strive to do. Okay. Like if I was giving advice to a contractor right now that's like, I don't know if I can pay my mortgage, I have to get this job, right? Okay. A job that's not profitable doesn't pay your fucking
No.
mortgage. Okay. You need profitable work to do it. So like selling it at a low or no profit doesn't help anything, right? If I was talking to a contractor that needed a job to do the mortgage, he has to or she has to, the contractor has to get on the phone and act like they don't need the job.
Right.
They have to be the expert. They have to be the person with a solution to your problem. And let me figure out the best way that I possible that I can help you. And not be like, I gotta sell it.
And I want to say this, Eric, that it's like you've almost offered that very thing. In focusing on this sort of a process, the process of building a relationship, building trust, right? You're you're increasing your chances of actually getting the contract. Traditional methods aren't working, right? The modern contractor understands the process differently. You're providing an experience. What you're doing, essentially, from what I'm hearing, is that you're selling the experience that that customer is going to be provided with throughout the duration of the contract. You've actually removed risk by doing something that on the surface appears risky. And I think that's pretty interesting. I
I'm just telling you
appreciate
it
that.
works. So many contractors are out there like they have to get out of that desperation mode. Because listen, when you have that mentality, that desperation, I gotta pay for the people, I got a mortgage, I got the kids, I got whatever. The prospects sense that.
They could smell
And
it.
and listen, they're either gonna be turned off by it completely and you're gonna lose, or they're gonna fucking take advantage of you. Right? They're like, oh well, like there's prospects that'll lie to you and they'll grind you on price and all this stuff. It's terrible. And I have people that I know that I've been knowing for a long time that live in that world for 20 years. It's terrible. And it's not a good place you want to be as a contractor.
No, it's not, and a lot of us experience it. And when I say us, I've experienced it too throughout the process.
Sure.
It's just part of growing. It's just you don't want to be trapped there and stay there because there's a lot of opportunity costs in doing business that way. The race to the bottom, right? The race to the lowest price and trying to
Mm-hmm.
close that deal. And it's a perspective that's a perspective shift that needs to happen in this industry, because I feel like the contractors are have a reputation amongst industry of being kind of sleazy and shady and not trustworthy and out to screw you and like
Well,
that
let's
whole.
let's
Yeah,
stop right there for a second
please, yeah.
because listen, when you get into that desperation mode to try and make money on a job that you've already sold too cheap, then that contractor has to cut a corner.
Right.
He has to fuck over a vendor. He has to sell another job to be able to get the money to finish that job, and that's where it's the vicious cycle.
Your back's
So it's
against the wall, isn't it?
yeah, so it's like it'd be better just to not do that job and not make it because doing a job for little to no profit is just spinning your wheels. You might as well just not do that job and figure out what you have to do and then sell a job at the right profit so you can actually break out of that cycle whether you're cutting corners and like screwing over vendors and all that stuff. It's just a terrible spot to be.
Yeah, and that's what it is, and that's what the modern contractor vision has a lot to do with mindset. It's breaking out of that mindset, breaking out of that spiral, that cycle, like you mentioned, of getting into yourself into situations that are not desirable, which causes problems, which causes situations that aren't desirable, and away it goes. It just continues to spiral, and this is where that perspective shift is so critical. And I hear you speak about perspective a few times, and like that's something that like I'd like to touch on a little bit before we get to the end here.
Mhm.
How important perspective is to mindset.
Um, I mean, perspective is important. It's all contextual to what we're learning and all that stuff, right? And what people are saying. I want to just spin this just a little bit different because I had a coaching call with my group just this week, and I did a TikTok. Maybe you saw it. And it was like, "What's your problem?" Like this little wrestling thing. I was like, "What's your problem?" Like,
Yes.
no, hey, you're a contractor, right? What's your problem? And I really believe that most of all contractors' problems are going to fall into three categories and that's within their control. Certain there's things without a control, but anything within your control is going to handle. It's going to come into lack of profits, poor time management, or poor mindset. Those three categories is like the bulk of all your problems are going to land there, right? So that contractor who's like, I just got to sell the job, I got to cut the thing, I'm going to self negotiate, sell it for cheaper. They're not selling jobs for enough profits, right? And so they don't have the money to hire the right team to spend the money on the ads. I need more leads. Well, you need profit. So you have the money to buy the leads or whatever, right? And then time management. So like when I started training and I started to develop this sales process to where I politely ask people, when do you want to get it done? Do I like you? And can you afford me? Those three things, right? I figured that out in a nice, polite way, tactically and
Right.
strategically over the phone. And then, bro, I saved like 20 hours a week. What would you do if you had 20 hours this week? What would you do?
Yeah.
Like, name it, bro. You can work on your business. You could actually go back to the fucking gym and start taking care of your body and you could start your hobbies again that you gave up. Remember you used to go golfing all the time? You can't do that anymore because you're grinding and hustling. No, you need to like I saved 20 hours. So now I have hobbies and now I have health, I have well-being, and I get home in time for dinner and all that shit, right? And then the other part is mindset. Like, yeah, this guy's in California. He's handsome. He's charismatic. He's like this. He's got the brand. I'm just fucking around, but for whatever your reason is to think that it works for me and it won't work for you in your area, you're full of shit. It's a mindset problem.
Yeah. Don't buy that shit, do you?
But dude, one of the members on TikTok, one of the people got in and commented like, like, oh well, I'm offering like $55 an hour. I can't find good help. And I'm like, well, it's probably because you're an asshole, you know, you know. So your mindset's
Yeah.
all fucked. right? If it's not profits, I was like, you're not offering enough money. Maybe it's based in profits. He's like, no, I'm making great money. I just, I'm trying to pay this, but they don't want to pay. And like, well, it's mindset because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Like but they're so self-absorbed and they're so victim mentality that they can't have the perspective to go like, let me look inside of myself and go like, what can I do to be better? So it's a mindset thing, and that's where it all comes back full circle to your question about perspective. You have to have enough self-awareness to know like it probably lands in profits, time management, and mindset, and all that can be corrected with a simple, sexy sales process where you talk to the people nice over the phone before you go out and waste your time.
That's well put. And I guess, yeah, that's a really good way of explaining it, because I understand it clearly. A lot of people are, I guess, too self-absorbed to really have the perspective to understand the power of mindset. Like, can't change that
Mhm.
without opening your mind. Really, that's really where it all starts. Um, and then, like, you touched a little bit on charisma, and I kind of want to get into that too. I mentioned a little earlier, is this something that can be taught? I know a lot of contractors out there, and this is something that the modern contractor is focused on, the understanding that this is a skill, not a gift that people just have. It's a skill of being able to dance with the person that you're engaged with in a social way, right? What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on charismatic skills? Is that something in your opinion that can be taught? Would you agree with that?
It's a great question and it's pretty deep. But so like I think understanding who we are, that's going to go back to profiling who we are, right? So some people are going to naturally have more charisma than others and be like, but a lot of people go like, oh, I have the gift of gab, I'm going to be awesome. Actually, the gift of gab is bullshit. You shut
Agreed.
your mouth. You talk too much, you're not going to win, right? But if you have the gift of gab, most likely you're like extroverted. So an extroverted person is going to have the upper hand on someone who might be introverted. They have a little more hard time going out and communicating, maybe knocking on a door, maybe meeting face to face. They're going to have a little more hard time with that. So like understanding who you are, it helps a lot because a lot of times it's the way we talk to each other. I'm not good at that. Like, no, you can be good at that. You
Yes.
just have to realize, who you are and how to get to your spot. So it can be trained. Some people are going to have it more naturally than others, but it definitely can be learned.
Yeah, I feel like charisma is something about understanding who you are and being more of that, the good stuff and the bad stuff, right? So I don't feel like charisma is something. But how do you define charisma in the first place? I mean, I would define it as having an attractive personality. An
Mhm.
introvert can have a highly attractive personality. You don't have to be extroverted to have an attractive personality, right? I think it's just a lot more about being yourself and letting that out with confidence.
Yeah, I think everyone's got their own individual personality, and I think people like that, right? Like I like introverts. I meet them if I see them coming out, like to talk to them, right? So sometimes people who have the gift of gab or they're kind of a big personality, sometimes they can be annoying to a prospect who's more of an introvert and like low key.
Right.
They'd be like, this guy's so annoying. But then you have this introverted, more calm salesperson come in, go through the sales process, asking the eight vital questions, and asking and having empathy and active listening and affirmations. That introverted salesperson with a little bit less person, like that, doesn't have that big personality, they can win big because, there's all the different prospect types.
Right, which is cool because it goes full circle back to understanding who you're dealing with and who you are, which is kind of like right. Read the room, stay
That's a good
quiet,
point.
stop
Yeah.
talking, listen, let them feel heard, and just in doing that, you're improving your potential for getting that sale, and you're improving the sales process. And I feel like more importantly, when you do get that sale, you're starting with a good relationship. The contract is just going to move smoother when there's trust. And we've all been in the situation where you have the customer that can't be pleased. Why is that? Because you didn't set your expectations properly.
So if you're up against a client that you're having a hard time with, that's a really good question because you have to go inside yourself, go like, do I know this person? They could be a C personality.
Right.
Here's the prime example, bro. If you don't know who you are and don't understand like the person that's having a hard time to please, they're like generally like maybe that high C personality, lots of details, right? And so if you're a high D and that person annoys you, then they're just coming up with a checklist and they're not trying to be, they just want to make sure their warranty is okay and I just have all these things. And it's just a personality clash.
That's it.
And if you know who they are and you can just go, oh, this is what they need, then a lot of times it can just be diffused and de-escalated and a couple of simple things. Hey, listen, I know these details are important to you, Johnny. Can you grab that clipboard? Can I get a copy of that? And can we just buzz this place real quick? I just want to make sure we get everything perfect for you. And then they're like, oh my God, this guy is, they like
They
calm down.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They take off their guard. But you got your guard up, they got your guard up, they guard up, and then like you guys are just fighting. It's like, oh, I can't please them. I can't please everybody. Fuck that customer. Like that customer is the wrong avatar for me. Like if you would have just pulled your guard down, they might have pulled theirs down. You could resolved it faster.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly. At the end of the day, it's on you. The customer's gone out of control. In that sense, it's on you. You haven't corrected that, or you haven't understood that. You didn't see it coming, right?
Well, most people don't understand that personality profiling. It's like a superpower, bro. When you learn it, you'll just
It
be
is a
like,
superpower. Yeah.
like when you figure it out and you start identifying people in your life, your kids, your loved ones, like your friends, when you start identifying their personality types, it is unbelievable, right? So most people don't understand it. So like when you prospect doesn't know your personality type, right? They just know they have to have their list checked
Right.
off.
Right.
And then when you give them a little bit of tension, hey, I know all my family when I get out my clipboard. So they're already tense because they know it's annoying. And now I got to tell the contractor who's trying to screw me over, and now he's being mean to me. And so it just becomes this bus back.
And that's it. Once that starts, I mean, you can diffuse that.
Yeah.
It's not entirely difficult to diffuse, but once that starts, it really creates a bad experience, and that defeats the whole purpose of why you're there. That should be your promise, a good
I'm
experience.
I'm not saying that you're not going to run into that customer as a completely, irrational, unreasonable. Like there are out there.
I
You're
have one
gonna,
right now.
yeah, that can happen.
Yeah,
But like a lot of times it's all a personality understanding. Yeah.
yeah. No, I love it. Well,
And let me just say this. If you price the job well enough where your profits are like really good,
you shouldn't care. You're
then
right.
you're like, what? Fuck it. I'll replace this thing for her. I
It's
don't
priced
care.
in. Yeah, you nailed
Yeah,
it.
like,
Yep.
yeah. So if you have good, like that's a profit problem and a mindset problem, right? And a
Yep.
time management problem because you didn't take time to learn out the personality profiling.
Yep.
Bid the job well, and then you take time to train yourself, and then have a mindset to where like I want to be open and I want to help.
Yep.
Like it's corrected right there.
When you have that budget, when you have that time, you have the ability to be able to tolerate these
Yeah,
mishaps and still
yeah.
provide a good product and still come out with some profit. I love that, Eric. I've had you for a little while, but I want to give you, an opportunity to kind of plug your.
The eight vital questions. Well,
That's one.
yeah. It's kind of already talked about them all. How soon do you want to get it done? Who else is excited about the project? Like those vital questions is what we train on. So like I have two kind of groups. I have like a free Facebook group. It's called the Contractor Circle.
Yeah.
TWT, that's like train with Triplett Contractor Circle. And it's super engaged. I probably should be a little harder in that group. But we have the Contractor Power Circle. There's this, it's $97 a month at the moment. And then I have contractors in there that pay to make sure like we're training hard. 2 coaching calls a week. We're talking about, discipline and trajectory of our business. We do weekly compass calls. We do sales training calls once a week. So like I pour really hard into that group and we practice this. New members come in, they don't know, they've never even heard anything I've said until they're in the group. Maybe they saw me on TikTok and now we run them through the whole sales process, like on a weekly call on Tuesdays. And then they get a chance to try it. Like I'll be like, hey, you be the contractor, I'll be the customer, and then let's just role play this
That's
scenario.
cool.
Yeah. And so we go through the whole role play, and then we just give constructive criticism at the end and be like, hey, try this next time. It seems to like, take your client down this road a little bit better,
I
and
think
use the buzzwords.
Yeah, Eric, I think the industry really needs more of what you're doing, especially the way it's evolving. Like a lot of people in the industry are getting into retirement. It's a completely different mentality back then. Like these guys were drill
Mhm.
sergeants. They were rugged and rough around the edges. But now we've got a lot of younger people moving into the industry and a lot of skills that industry's changed so much, and the approach, being salesy, like people are exhausted from sales. They're exhausted of marketing techniques and all these sleazy techniques. It doesn't work anymore. And contractors have that reputation, and what you're providing the industry, a different, unique approach. And like, I just think it's so powerful. It's so needed in the industry. Like, we need a lot more of that.
I mean, if you think about it, like, I don't know, if I think about the modern contractor, I mean, that's what we are, right? Like,
Right.
we're trying to promote contractors to be like up to speed on stuff, should be reading some books. You should be listening to some good podcasts. Like, listen, like when I get in my truck, sometimes I just need to put Lamb of God on and fucking crank that shit up because I need a little bit of release. But like I'm listening to Alex Hormozy, I'm listening to Andy Priscilla, I'm listening to some podcasts on business and like how to be sharp, and I'm reading books at night, and like and I'm training. Like coaching groups have been a big part of my growth and development. And so the modern contractor should be thinking like, how can I be the best version of myself? And that's how I think. And like in my group, it's a small group. We just got started, but like I think it's cheap enough. I think it's dirt cheap. But I mean, I think like we can give you 10 times tenfold the return on investment. Like if you think about it, 97 a month, 1,200 a year, like I take contractors and I do share with them how what I learned. I'm not
Right.
saying, hey, you have to do it this way. I'd be like, well, I've tried it this way and this way. Let's have you try it and see what works for you. Like, because this is how it's worked for me and how it's worked for some of my other peers, and find a technique that works for them. So like for me, I'm in California. I'm like, hey, would it be cool with you if I just share with you what this looks like? Hey, would it be helpful if I do like that's my kind of my approach. Like my guys in the South, they don't say, hey, would it be cool if I share with you? Like they don't say
They
cool,
speak.
right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah. So we like figure out who they are and how they talk, and we like help them tailor it to their own personal signature, right? And then we help them go and like people with just a little bit of experience now, like let me give you an example. I had
Please.
you have time for the story?
No, I do. I want to keep this going as long as you're
Okay.
you're okay with it. Yeah.
One of my members came into the group. We are training with her, right? It's a woman. She's going through the sales process, and we charge to go out to someone's home as a consultant. Like,
Yeah.
hey, listen, Johnny, if I come out to your place, we sign a contract, I get money, you're on the board. But if I don't sign a contract with you, you're gonna pay me for my time. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to pay me. Like, how can you say that politely? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, it costs me a lot of money. I got to take time. I'm not going to have dinner with my kids. My tires on my truck are bald. I'm going to come out. It's going to cost me $40 in fuel. You're going to pay me either way. Like
That's not a good way of
I,
placing it. Yeah.
but I say that in a fashion that people go, oh, okay, I'll pay you 250. When like can next Friday work? And then we book a date and they pay me $250 to come to their house to measure. Okay, that's part of our training process. So like this woman comes to the group, she's like, I'm terrified to ask for this. Like I just can't do it. I just don't. She's in Indiana. She's like, how can I do this? This is not normal. None of the contractors ask for money out there.
Right. Right.
Go out there. So I had to figure out who she was. Like what's working for me for the past 18 years. It's maybe different for her. So I was like, hey, listen, this next phone call that you get, like, how important is it to the livelihood of your family? I know you have two small boys and you have mortgage payment and truck payments. Like, this next job, like, does it mean like you can't pay your mortgage on time? Or like, how important is the next job?
Yes.
She's like, oh God, no, we're booked for 6 months. I'm like, you're booked for 6 months? Are you kidding? And you like, listen, throw the next couple of phone calls away. Throw them away. Like, I'm gonna give you a couple word tracks, and I want you to like say your word tracks in a certain way. And if someone gets mad, then just just like be okay with it. And we're going to teach you how to do it to where like they're going to say yes. And if you're booked for 6 months straight, you're too cheap. You need to raise your prices.
100%. I was just
Okay.
waiting for you to say that, dude.
Yeah. So we got her to raise her prices, and then we trained her how to ask for money. She doesn't even go to someone's house without getting $2,500.
No shit. Okay. Wow.
$2,500. She
Wow.
went from terrified to ask for $150 to come and measure to $2,500 retainers to come and design.
Wow.
And she's raised her price, and she's still booked out like solid. And she's still the coach on the football team and the soccer team and the baseball team for her two small boys
Right.
because she focused on profits. She now has more time management and she corrected her mindset. Those three things, again, circle back to perspective.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Like I love that because a lot of people are afraid to do that. You know, like look at the trucks driving up and down the road. Like I'm in Canada, it can't be much different where you are. There's free estimates. Everyone's like,
Oh, yeah.
why the hell would you put that on your truck? It's so dumb.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would never do that in a million years, right? Like how do you ask for money to go to people's job? Well, I mean, like I do it, and it's simple for me. You know, listen, what I've done in the past with other customers is, you know, I've they paid me $250 to come to their property and we do a quick consult and we go over all the details. It's fine, that gets credited back if we get the contract. If not,
Mhm.
then you know everybody benefits off the details that we went over and we can scope out your project. They value that. Ask them.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Like it just proves that you value your time and then they see you as the authority because you're not, you know, throwing your time away.
Yeah. A lot of that comes from branding too. I mean, I've been branding. I've been at it a long time, so like my branding's paid off in the long run. So I have some pretty good brand equity. So when you look as the expert, they're gonna lean into that.
That's something
So
that's really important. Yeah. That's something that's really important. I mean, driving that truck up and down saying free estimates, you know, call you know, Giuseppe the bricklayer. That's not branding. It's, you know, advertising, marketing, very loosely termed, but like this is kind of a cool little conversation to get into quickly if you have
it
time.
it is. I would say it's branding, and it's to some degree because you're branding yourself as a low status contractor. That's the brand. Yeah, I'm low status.
Dude, that's amazing. Yes, that's exactly
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're selling yourself short. You're literally saying it
I
on
don't
your
care about my
truck.
kids. I don't care about my wife. I'm not going to go home for dinner on time. You know?
Exactly. I have no self-respect. You're just
Yeah.
driving up and down the road. And who calls those numbers anyways, Eric? Let's be
Yeah.
honest, right?
Not my customers.
No, hell no. Hell no. But branding is a lot, you know, taking advantage. I mean, like you do yourself, taking advantage of social media. I mean, it's free. It takes work, but you know, I see like we do branding on Instagram. And that's really more about not showcasing our work. It's showcasing our personality, how we have fun on a job site. Like we spend more time around our personality and joking around and our mistakes and all the stupid shit that we do than we do about before and after pictures. So, and I see people like take before and after pictures. Customers don't give a fuck. They don't. Like they truly don't give a shit about your before and after pictures. Anybody could do that, right? Like they want to know who you are. And when you're branding yourself, you get that opportunity. Go out on social media and actually present yourself, present your image, and it serves as a portfolio because people get the opportunity to know who you are before they even talk to you, and it's actually it
Mhm.
builds credibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I checked your stuff out, and I would say to some degree people are going to like that before and after. Like to the degree they're going to like that, but too many contractors only do before and after, and they don't really have a face. They don't have a personality. They don't
Right.
have a laugh. They don't have a smile. They don't have, the sense of a teamwork and like a cruise and stuff like that. So I think a blend of the two is like, hey, we screwed this up. We had a mess up, and I teased and we teased each other a little bit. But then, wow, look at the end result.
Right.
Even
Right.
though we screwed up, and even though we had fun, like we still delivered this beautiful product. I think that's the fun part of the brand. So I think you're definitely on the right track for sure to have that kind of because a lot of contractors don't do that.
Yeah, I'd like to, you know, share that because it's served as such an incredible tool when it comes to engaging with clients and customers. Like in a lot of cases, by the time they called us, they've already seen it, right?
Hmm.
So they
Yeah.
know who they're calling, and it makes it so much easier. And a lot of people ask us, and then even yourself. I mean, the type of clientele that you deal with, Eric, pawns. I mean, people don't just dig ponds because they need a pond. Nobody needs a damn pond, and not for anything.
Everybody
I'm in.
needs a pond. Everybody needs.
Yeah, right. And nobody needs a tile shower. You can do vinyl. Nobody needs a tile anything. Like it's luxury that we sell, right? So we're appealing to that sort of a client base, and I think it's worth everybody kind of, the modern contractors targeting that sort of clientele because it's there, and it's not low hanging fruit, right? But it serves a lot of big opportunities. And if you showcase yourself properly and brand yourself properly, the brand does a lot of the selling for you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like what would you say to contractors, Eric, that want to be faceless, image takers on, like, are they missing out? Like, what do you think?
Some of that's going to come back to that charisma, trainability kind of stuff that you talked about earlier.
Right.
And a lot of people are, and that's a personality type. Some people are, they're just scared of what other people think. And certain personality types are more like affected by that. Like for me, high D, high I don't give a what you think. Like I'm just gonna go out and do my thing. And deep down, I care a lot about what you think, but I don't really care. Like where other people go, like, oh, I don't want people to think. I don't want to embarrass myself. So, but I think a face is really, really important. To have a face out there so they know who they're talking to. Like, luckily for me, my YouTube channel has done really well over my career. And so when I get on the discovery call with people, a lot of times people go like, "Oh, I recognize your voice," and I feel like I'm talking to someone on TV. Like because I have a lot of good YouTube
You're
videos.
a damn
So they,
celebrity.
yeah, so they recognize my voice, which is really cool, and that shows brand. That shows, hey, he's an expert. He teaches people. He does quality work. He's a professional. Like that's the brand that I created on YouTube.
Yeah, so there's a
So
lot of power there, and I suppose you don't have to, get up to hundreds of thousands of followers. That's not what this is about. I guess it's about,
no,
building a little bit of a portfolio and credibility and online presence, so you have something to pivot off of, right? And it's a great opportunity for people. Like this is what Modern Contractor is. I mean, if you're that introverted type person, join the Modern Contractor community. This is exactly what we're gearing ourselves, and we're trying to teach and share by sharing stories and that sort of thing, right? But like I think it's critical. I wanted to get a little bit of your opinion. Like if you have any advice for anybody out there about that branding thing, like I'd love for you to share it.
So I have a couple of members in our group that have just started YouTube channels like this year, like 10
Cool.
months. And their videos are already paying off, like because you think about the way we market, you put the YouTube video out there. It doesn't mean it's just broadcasted to the world and you get millions of views. It's like it's what you do with that video as well. It's so like you put up the brand, you put up the look, you put the professionalism, you put the expert kind of feel, maybe some fun, right? You like put that out as a brand. And maybe it's only got 30 views on it, but now you're talking to a prospect. And if you did that strategic video to develop your brand and educate, right? And entertain. I think they call it edutainment or something like that, right?
Yeah, I like it.
Right. So, like, if I'm talking to a client, I can be like, "Hey, is it cool if I just send?" There's that cool thing. You probably don't do that in Canada.
No, we do. We say cool all the time. It's just not cool.
Yeah,
But go on.
yeah. So you're like, "Hey, Johnny, I'm looking forward to our meeting on Friday. If it's cool with you, I'm going to send you over 3 or 4 videos of the exact process that we're probably going to be doing during the construction phase of your property. I'm going to send those over to you. You can kind of watch them, and then it might trigger some questions when I'm on site. We can make sure we get all the details right.
I like that because you're using your social media as a tool, as
Yeah.
a sales tool. And where do you have the opportunity? I mean, there used to be a day where maybe I'm dating myself. I don't know. I don't know exactly how old you are, but we walked around with, freaking portfolios that we had to
Oh
go
yeah.
through pictures, and we were showing people shit like that. Like here you have something that's just so much more powerful. And I feel like a lot of contractors aren't leveraging it and they're falling behind. It's like, I want to tell you that, if you're not using this, there's a modern contractor out there that's coming for you. Like that
Mm-hmm.
it's getting used. If you're not leveraging social media, AI, like I know it sounds like it's daunting, but it's not. These tools that are absolutely important to use. Branding yourself gives you the ability to sell your services, right?
If you're branding well, the person already wants to buy from you before they get on the phone with you.
That's right.
And that's why the sales training I think is so important. It's just like to run through 8 vital questions of the sales process, to like
Yes.
be consider it, to talk them through that. And then you're already like sounding different than all the other douchebags out there, right?
Yeah.
So the branding's for like fronting you out. You get on the phone, they're like, wow, this guy is who he said, like this guy's even better than I thought he was. And then like you shine above everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let me see that shirt there for a second. Let me see it. So this is the difference of being a pond digger to being the pond digger. That's
The pop.
the power of social media, right?
Yeah.
Because there's other pond diggers out there, but there's no the pond digger. That's what you became,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what we are, and I love it. I think this is like a good chance to like wrap this up, Eric. We got a lot of really good information out of you. Like, I loved having you. I'd love to do this again if you give us the opportunity. As soon as I get off this, I'm going to think of another 3 questions. I'm going to freaking kick myself for not asking you, but this is like,
Well,
it's part of the process, man.
yeah. Write them down for the next one.
Yeah. So, like, if you have any opportunity, I'm gonna ask you something. Your favorite book.
My favorite book.
Your favorite book. What if you could name one book? And I have an idea of what it might be. But if you could name one book that modern contractors should read, what would it be?
I think in the name of the book, is it over here? Oh, The Slight Edge. It's right there. The Slight Edge from Jeff Olson is a really good book.
Really?
And it's really interesting because like when I listen to Andy Frisella, when I just hear him talk, I'm like, and he always talks about reading and 75 hard and all this shit. But like sometimes he says stuff and I'm like, he definitely read some Jeff Olson. I know it for a fact. And then later on in life, I heard him talk on one of the podcasts, like he reads that book once a year. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. It's a really powerful book.
Really? Maybe I could put a
Yeah,
link to
yeah.
that in the comments. Yeah, I think that's really cool. You know what I thought you were gonna say, bro?
But
Never Split the Difference by
which one?
Chris
Oh, never.
Voss.
That book's deep. It's a great book, and I love that book. I've learned a ton from Chris. He's a fucking legend.
Isn't he? Like, that is just
It's a tough book to read for me. For me, it was a tough read. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the way he writes or whatever, but I
yeah,
learned a
that might
ton
have
from it.
something to do with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but the
and it's
information,
yeah,
wow.
it's there's so much logic too behind it. It's really deep. But the Slight Edge just like really punched me in the nuts, right? Like really hard. And I
Yeah,
probably read it 3 times.
yeah. I mean, if you're saying that, dude, I'm gonna read it, and I encourage everybody else to. Eric, where can we find you if anyone's looking?
So listen, at the Pond Digger, pretty much everywhere. Twitter, X, whatever you call it,
You're
Instagram,
scattered
TikTok,
all over the internet.
like a freaking virus. But that a lot of times you're just gonna find me as like the Pond Digger there and helping people with water features. But I have a podcast called the Pond Digger Podcast. We put out like content for contractors once a week, and we put out content for like water feature freaks as well once a week. But Train with Triplett is my coaching group where I just have a group of really amazing peers. We just are trying to be the best versions of ourselves, and we feed off each other and like get on it, get after it every day.
Yeah, I'm gonna really encourage everybody to, like. I mean, I see a lot of your stuff on TikTok, and I know where that is. Just go search them out. They're awesome clips. You put out a lot of really, really cool content. I think it's really valuable. I'm happy that you do it, man. I want to encourage more people to do it. And dude, it was really great having you, man.
I
Hopefully we
appreciate
could
it.
do this again.
Yeah, let's talk again soon.